Women of Houston. Boss Women of Houston is presented to you by Bed and Bougie Entertainment. I'm your host, Ms. Nikki, the CEO. We have our other beautiful host, Dr. Kanisha Gaston. Uh, we previously had, this is emotional.
Mothers of Murder Sons that was on there, and we talked about the injustice that they experienced losing a son, and now we want to speak on how your son was in a situation, and in that situation he got charged with murder. And basically, what it was, from my gathering of eliciting the story, is that he was charged for murder, and it was self-defense in the same manner. So systemly, we know how the system works,
Mm-hmm.
to where someone has to take the blame for something, or some type of restitution has to be given. So would you like to elaborate on your son's situation?
Yes, my son is a local rapper here in Houston. He goes by the stage name of Hello Chopper. Um, he moved to Arkansas a couple of years ago, and for the sake of the other family, I won't say any names. But my son moved to Arkansas a couple of years ago. He had a neighbor that moved in. The neighbor didn't have any electricity when he first moved into his apartment, so my son told him, "You can." Stay over here until your electricity come on. And so the gentleman had a little boy with him, so my son let him move in. Well, not move in, stay with him a couple of days until his electricity came on. And so a month later, well, he didn't stay the whole month. He stayed a couple of days until his electricity came on. A month later, my grandmother passed away, and so my son had to come. My family wanted him to place the crown on my grandmother's head when, as she was being at her funeral. And so he got calls from his baby's mom. She had just had a baby, so she couldn't come with him. And she kept calling, saying that the gentleman kept knocking on her door. He wanted her to open the door. He kept saying, that he needed to tell her something. So he had to rush back to Arkansas and come to find out that this gentleman was a sex offender. And so my son and the gentleman they ended up exchanging words once they found out he was a sex offender, because my son was like, he no longer wanted to, have anything to do with the guy, because not only was he a sex offender, he had a little boy with him, and he was registered as a sex offender in another at another household, not the apartments they were living in. So he began to harass my son, threaten my son. My son was going to school and working at the time, so my son was ignoring him the whole while. So uh, my son called, and they started videoing the guy every time he would harass him, and threaten him. And so my son kept, just kept ignoring him. So I guess it started to become a situation where the guy was bullying my son, or he thought he was bullying my son. So one particular day, my son called. He was in a good mood. We were just, talking and laughing on the phone. And then probably he said, "Okay, Mama, love you. Let me call my pops." About 10 minutes later, his dad called, and he was talking hysterically, and I'm like, what's going on? I couldn't understand what he was saying, and he heard the guys come approach my son and threatening to kill my son, and he heard a gunshot, and he didn't hear anything on the line, so he kept calling my son's name. And so what it was, he heard the guy tell my son he was going to kill him, and he heard the gunshot, and come to find out, the gunshot was my son shot the guy.
Uh-huh.
So um, the guy ended up dying, and so after the guy died, they arrested my son. They wanted to charge him with capital murder. So the the guy's family started giving death threats to my family via social media. The other guy that was killed, his uncle was a part of the police force. So it, so they were pretty much getting away with sending death threats to my family over the phone. I mean, not over the phone, over via social media, over the Facebook. So we were screenshotting them, sending them, to my son's lawyer. So my son's dad went to Arkansas to pay the lawyer. So once he went to Arkansas to pay the lawyer, this the um the deceased guy, his nephew, did a drive by and shot my son's dad in the back.
Oh
So
my gosh.
yeah, they did a drive by, and the guy had a ankle monitor on when he shot my son's dad in the back. So, and the crazy part is, um, after my son was arrested, um, there was a few days later, the SWAT team went and picked up the guy that shot my son's dad, and there was one of the correctional officers called me around 11 o'clock at night and told me that he was doing his rounds and he noticed my son was moved to a vacant cell where they had feces and um, urine all over the floor, and he know that my son wasn't supposed to be in that area. So the guards had let two inmates uh, go into the cell to fight my son, and after my son ended up winning the fights, they let another inmate. So they were letting inmates in to fight my son. So apparently the guards knew the
Was this substantiated? Was it proven?
oh yes, because
So
what
they
I
got something happened with that, or
yeah, so what happened was I started calling every out because the thing is, what they didn't know is I also worked in the corrections field myself. So I knew what actions to take. So I started calling every 30 minutes to an hour, and everybody that I spoke to, I took their name down and I wrote down on the paper what they told me, because he got into a fight at 8 o'clock. I didn't get the call till 11.
so was legal action taken on
Yes.
them?
What happened was in the morning I spoke to a supervisor, and the supervisor, what happened was she told me nothing happened. So what happened was there was no response to a fight. None of there was no nothing happened because they didn't call any supervisors, and um, so I ended up calling internal affairs. Internal affairs, they went and they did a investigation. By 5:30 that evening, they called me and apologized, and they had my son shipped to another unit 2 hours away. But what happened was my daughter-in-law called in the middle of the day, like 2 days later, and she said that they were moving my son, and I said, moving him where? She said she didn't know. So I called, and when I called to check on my son, they was like they didn't know where they was taking him. And I said, what? Well, not that's not what happened. I asked where he was, and they told me he didn't know. And I said, well, can you put somebody on the line that knows? And so a supervisor got on the phone, and he said the same thing. I said, well, that's okay. I'll just call internal affairs back. And all of a sudden, they was like, oh, such and such came to get him at such and such time. I said, well, do you know the ETA? They told me the ETA. I said, oh, you just killed my son. And then he was like, well, what do you mean by that? I said, you should never tell what who came and picked up an inmate, the route and where they're going, and what time they're supposed to arrive. I said I work in the criminal justice field. You know what I'm saying? So you can hear a rat piss on cotton.
Well, technically, yes. They was not supposed to tell you. They were supposed to transfer you to a legal liaison. to
Mhm.
pass that information, or it was supposed to go to inmate records or classification for
Mhm.
somebody to talk to you
Yeah, and
about that.
not even knowing who I was on
But
the
I think
phone.
that they probably got pressured because you said internal affairs. But
Mhm.
yeah, they wasn't supposed to disclose that information
Mhm.
at all because you could have been the other family member trying to find out where he was,
Exactly.
and more incident could have happened.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So um so my son went up to another facility which, treated him a lot better. Um the inmate that shot my son's father, even though he shot him in retaliation and was on an ankle monitor, he got out on bond. Yeah, he got out on bond, which I thought was wrong, but that's the way they do it in their state. But my son, he uh after he went to court, they kept resetting and resetting and resetting his court date due to COVID. They did that for about a year, and then they they finally gave him a bond, $100,000 bond, and then we paid the bond, and we was able to let him get out. They let him out on ankle monitor. So I was paying the ankle monitor for about a year, and so whenever he got a job, they would let him go through the temporary service. But then whenever he was a good worker, so well let me start over. He had just got his degree in business. So while he was in jail, he was able to graduate. So he had just got his cap and gown to graduate. And so he went from cap and gown. All he was able to do was try on his cap and gown. So he went from a cap and gown to a prison, to a, not prison, to a inmate uniform, which was, really hurtful. But because it was virtual graduation, he was still able to graduate. So at any rate, he was able to go out a year later and out on the ankle monitor. He was able to get temporary jobs, but whenever he worked his way up to the full time, they would red flag him, and he hadn't even got charged charged yet, and they would red flag him and put the murder case uh, on his file, so he couldn't stay employed. So at any rate, with him being a artist, he started doing start start back doing his music. And so with him doing his music, he was doing positive music. He started going back to school. um and recently he did a couple of concerts, and he did a car show. So he did a video, which I want to introduce the video. He did a video with Harvey Love here in Houston, and it's called Elevate. My son is Hello Chopper, and with award winning Harvey Love, and my son Prince, my nephew Prince Geist is on the hook. It's called Elevate. Check out Elevate. Oh yeah, we supposed to see him. We trying to Nobody. Elevate, bro. All the dads out the chain gang. You looking good, boy. See, look, y'all got these dreads. I told that nigga still ugly, bro. Hey, stop hating, man. It's all good. You gonna get some more tats? You ain't got no room to fit no more. What you got going on when you come home? Yeah. But you gonna elevate up out of there first, then when you come home, you gotta elevate the better shit. You feel? Hey, I'm gonna text you when to call me later. There's some drought on these real man. Free Sherman, my boy. Hey, gangway. Look, bro. Trap Frost. I'm trying to elevate. Used to rock out, I'm off to the moon, yeah. Now Cadillac, my account escalating the rate, those are eyes on the moon, yeah. I was been on top of my shit. Say to my piece of my cues, yeah. Loving this spot at the top of the throne. Sit back and I put it on cruise, yeah. I'm trying to elevate. Used to rock out, I'm off to the moon, yeah. Now Cadillac, my account escalating the rate, those are eyes
Can't help that I live good with dreams, living great. Nightmares are running that race, and I'm stuck in last place. So when I wake, can't help to elevate. Lightweight, Mike Tyson, boy, push the heavyweight. Mario Luigi be gone off shoes, but I go to Biggie World to get the biggest plate. Been running off sides like like I can't wait. Houston, my city, and the Bulls on parade. All white, lack factory, 15s, I skate. Just wait till I throw on the blades. Been trying to jump another tax bracket in my state. I ride so low, don't worry about who real and who fake. Fat boy at the table on my third, helping them still worried about more cake. Invest in natural race, just stocks in the land, that's the plan if you trying to elevate.
Used to rock it, I'm up to the moon, yeah. No Cadillac, my account escalated in the red door, so I saw the moon, yeah. I was been on top of my shit. Say to my piece of my cues, yeah. Loving this spot at the top of the throne. Sit back and I put it on cruise, yeah. I'm trying to elevate. Used to rock it, I'm up to the moon, yeah. No Cadillac, my account escalated in the red door, so I saw the moon, yeah. I was been on top of my shit. Say to my piece of my cues, yeah. Loving this spot at the top of the throne. Sit back and I put it on cruise.
I'm beating the block in my drop. Releasing the top when I stop. Fresh out the shop, trucking to the cop. Sideways with a Glock when I pop. Haters in the way of my grind. Broke wannabes be wasting my time. Underestimating my shine. Better fuck with them than but not mine. Ain't nothing lame in my game. Not a motherfucker stain nowhere in my name. Gotta maintain the swing in my lane. But all you want is fame, and that ain't the same thing. Got money in the line and I get it. Celebrate telling my mama I did it. Sit back and relax in my fitted. Got a bunch of houses and cars to go with it. Catch yellow chop in the hood, we roll. Y'all already know it is good, we throw. Don't get a nigga in the lab, we know it's gonna be some bum shit in the C4. Yeah, said he wanted, but they hesitate. Gotta go for mine, never ever wait. Do it for myself till I delegate. Sky is the limit when I elevate. Hold up.
I'm trying to elevate. Used to rock it, I'm off to the moon, yeah. No Cadillac, my account escalated in the red door, so I saw the moon, yeah. I was been on top of my shit. Say to my piece of my cues, yeah. Loving this spot at the top of the throne. Sit back and I put it on cruise, yeah. I'm trying to elevate. Used to rock it, I'm off to the moon, yeah. No Cadillac, my account escalated in the red door, so I saw the moon, yeah. I was been on top of my shit. Say to my piece of my cues, yeah. Loving this spot at the top of the throne. Sit back and I put it on cruise, yeah.
Welcome back to Boss Women of Houston. It seemed like your son was very focused when he did the video. You like to share the meaning of the video, what's behind it, and some of the things that he's working on before this incident happened?
Yes, Elevated was actually my other son, King Shermo. He's also in the video. That was him at the beginning of the video with the long dreads. They were both talking about elevating, doing. They were both talking about elevating, doing different things, pushing their music, going forward with their music, doing more for the community. They're looking at life a lot different now that they have kids.
Of course.
They're both going to be maybe mentoring up and coming artists. They have he has a We Just Want to Eat record label. He has a clothing line called We Just Want to Eat. He had a little reality show going on a while back called We Just Want to Eat, where he was feeding the homeless. They were, feeding the homeless downtown for the holidays. The car show actually was on Street Flavor with D Solo. It was on this past weekend, Saturday, from at 11 o'clock, and the weekend before. Actually, we have the footage of the Street Flavor. We introduced the Street Flavor from this weekend of the car show from July 3rd.
Houston's biggest car show is pouring it up, saucing it up. Halloween Productions and Willie Wyatt Entertainment proudly presents the Crank It Up Old School Contest. It's got to be the part 2. Pour it up. Swing Sunday, October 2nd from 3 until Wilson and Trippin' and then Rob. The Hangout. B&H Ranch, 14149. Player Street. Ain't nobody playing. With special guest, DJ Tricky C, Hello Chopper, and Harvey Love. The World Houston Championship belt. Who's holding the slab? Your entertainment lineup is brought to you by Ms. Nikki. Ms. Nikki, a bad and bougie entertainment with feature artists like Young Al, Hello Chopper, and Harvey Love. Youngster with Flow, Milk the Crook, other special guests like Street Dreams Car Club, and so many more. We be leaning, y'all. Sponsors that will be on location like Mickey's Soul Food, Appetite Pleasing, Kitchen and Catering, and T-Mobile. Pick up the phone while you driving. Drippin'. Get you some property. Rim Real Estate. Nita Bailey Realtor. Another sponsor. A Plus Party Rentals. There will be a kid zone. Check them out. This will go down live on Street Flavor TV. It's time to ride deep into Slam. October 2nd from 3 until we twistin', y'all. Special shout out to King Shermo.
About moving to Houston, we see that your son was very productive before he went back in, and he was doing a lot of things for the community and for different people in his family. Before I ask about the outcome, I just want to encourage you, and I want to encourage the situation because I know that a lot of things that happen sometimes happens for a reason, and he will become much stronger than what it is. And I want you to be encouraged because I know it's nothing like a mother having to witness her son being incarcerated or go through things and you feel helpless. So I want to encourage you that your prayers have been answered and that look how God moved in the situation. And when I say God moved in the situation, because it could have been a whole lot worse.
Yeah.
And it's not. Okay, so we're gonna find good in this situation. And so, with that being said, could you tell us about the outcome of the situation?
Yeah, the outcome of the situation actually worked out in his favor. They wanted to charge him with capital murder, which was 25 years to life. You did encourage me when I spoke to you about it, and you told me to stay encouraged because they wanted to offer him a deal. Um, and he did take the deal. They don't have a self-defense. They didn't do self-defense. Well, they don't recognize self-defense. So what they did was the stand your ground law, and so they gave him 2 years of manslaughter and 8 years of unsupervised probation. So and they dropped it down to a Class C felony, which he doesn't have a record, which is the only thing that really bothers him and bothers me because he didn't have a record before this. It's very unfortunate that a life was taken, but it's very unfortunate that a life was taken, and now his record is tarnished, but like you say, God did step in. Um, so prayerfully he'll be home in a shortly. And he has goals. He was supposed to graduate again because he went back to school. He was supposed to graduate in September, but he still has things. He still have things. He's gonna finish his class. He's going back for another degree in business. He still have the We Just Want to Eat brand. It's a record label. It's a clothing line. They still feed the homeless. Um, he still will be working with his dad, Albee Productions. He'll still be working with Bad and Bougie Entertainment. So he still has a lot of things. He and his brother King Shermo. I'm King Shermo's manager. So I mean, we work as a team. So we still have a lot of things, that we want to put together. And
Right.
keep working for the community.
Right, and that's good that in spite of
Mhm.
you still have productive goals
Mhm.
to accomplish. And one thing about the system is something that I want to share is that whenever we venture out for where we are in the different states, it's important that we know the law.
Mhm.
It's important that we know the law in all aspects because Texas is different from Arkansas, just as Arkansas is different from Florida.
Mhm.
And it's important to know because some states have self-defense and
Mhm.
then some states have the stand your ground a law, and it could go either way
Yeah.
in different situations. And it seems like and I'm saying allegedly because things transpire and I don't want to offend either parties.
Yeah.
But when a person is we can look at it as I'm defending myself.
Mhm.
In the same sense, other people look at it as cold blooded murder.
Yeah.
And so it's important that we understand the legal system, understand how it goes. And when you said that they offered him 25 to life, I remember that specific conversation and how discouraged you were.
Mhm.
And I said, they offer that to, it's meaning, how can I say this without actually, they offer things like that so they can get and divulge other information.
Mhm.
We've been in a correctional system before where we worked,
Yeah.
and so we know how the interrogation
Yeah.
goes. And so they offer that, and I would say like a scare tactic.
Yeah.
And but if you're honest and you tell the truth, it's nothing else to be said. And so when I told you, okay, what they're going to do is they're going to say 25 to life,
Yeah.
but they're going to come back with an offer.
Yeah.
And you was like, oh, I don't. If they give him an offer, and I told you, if he don't take that offer, then the only thing on the table is that 25 to life.
Yeah.
And if you let him do that 25 to life, then you pretty much lost your son
Yeah.
for a copious amount of time.
Yeah.
So when you came back and shared that information to me, you remember I was asking questions like, "Are you sure? Let me hear what you're saying."
Yeah.
Because he now, if he has to do the 2 years and have that 8 years on probation, he
Mhm.
has to be very strategic about
Mhm.
who he's hanging around and the things that he's doing.
Yeah.
So with that being said, because any mishap can get him to go back for the
Yeah.
remaining of those 8, what type of initiative do you believe that you're going to try to set in place, or y'all going to discuss, so he won't resort or be placed in a situation
Mhm.
to get him sent back?
Yeah. Well, number one, I told him when he does his videos, he can't have violence. Portray guns, drugs. What his videos really doesn't portray that. He try to portray
Positive.
positivity. Yeah, and I think the thing that really scared me most is because working in protective custody, I've sat in on some of the parole meetings and hearings, so that scared
That
me.
boy, yeah.
Yeah, so and I listened to some of the questions that they asked, and some of the offenders didn't know how to answer the
And it
questions,
tripped
and
up,
it
and
tripped
then
up.
that
Yeah,
that parole is denied.
yeah, and
Yeah.
also what I meant failed to mention is when he went in as a trustee, so he's already a trustee, which
Yeah.
he
Good behavior.
good behavior. So they did give him 253 days of good time on that two
Okay,
years.
so Arkansas does the good time as
Yeah.
well. Yeah.
So working in the, and and then
Well, I guess we got to explain that because some people might not understand. Basically, what good time is at the time you served, if you don't get any disciplinary types of cases that cause behavior that the prison system have to take care of, they give you that good time. So, say for instance that I spend 365 days inside the prison and I don't have any disciplinary cases, any bad behavior, I've been a model inmate or whatever, they will match that 365 days. So it will be equivalent to 2 years, and it'll help me get to my parole faster.
yeah,
So that's what we mean when we say good time. That's how it's calculated.
yeah. So working in a prison for 20 years, some of the things that go on, the riots, the murders,
The use of
the
forces, the
use of
suicide
force, the
attempts.
suicide attempts and the suicides. We had to run to a
Hmm.
lot of stuff, especially as supervisors.
The
The
gas,
gas,
the blood,
yeah,
everything we
just
saw.
seeing so much stuff in there that the public don't see as a mother, and then seeing your side on that, seeing your children on
On
that
that
side of the
side,
fence, it's hard to sleep at night because now now you're on the on that side of the fence. You've become, now you worry, because now you have to worry, is your son okay? Because I will call and
I'm gonna share a similar story. This is in Texas, considering my brother. He was out on parole, and he was at an area he shouldn't been. Two people came and tried to rush him. Two brothers, and he ended up
yeah,
killing one and uh, disabling the other. And he sat on the porch for them to come get him.
mhm,
And he's in there for life.
yeah,
But he said it was self defense, but the state looked at it as you were at a place that you shouldn't have been. So
mhm,
was it premeditated, or were you doing something that that caused you to go over there that initiated the incident? So
Mhm.
it no longer was self-defense, it was cold-blooded murder because of the circumstances that was
Yeah.
around his incident. Plus he was a repeat
Offender.
offender.
Mhm.
And so I said that because while I was working in the system as a captain,
Mhm.
22 years with the state, I kept saying, but while he was in his sentencing phase, is it going to be life in prison or are they going to give my brother the death penalty?
Mhm.
And then I said, I work death row.
Mhm.
And I can't imagine me being here, having to be deployed, and it's my brother or my friends that I was working with because we became family in there had to walk my brother to get the death penalty. So I made that decision like, man, I have to get out of this system because now I looked at it completely different. Not saying I didn't care about other people's lives, but it was personal then. But
Yes.
he ended up getting life. But I can understand what you mean by now you're seeing your son on the inside, what we
Well,
saw
we saw
every
everything
day.
because when we went to Sam Houston State and we had to go to the Walls unit
I worked there.
and go actually into the execution chamber, that is total a whole
And a
total
lot of people
monster.
talking about you walk the green mile. No, it's literally
It
right
is
there. You
literally
come
right
from this
there.
cell, you
You're
right
right
there,
there.
and it's two rooms.
I'm getting chills really
Yeah, it's
literally
two
just
rooms,
thinking
and
about
you have
being
the
in there.
family on this side and the offender family on this side,
And you
and
can actually feel it when you in
it's
that.
it's it's a whole
It's
different
a whole
environment.
different
Yeah.
monster when you sitting right here. The bed is right here, and I can.
So laying at night, you visualizing your son there, but your son did what he needed to do. He didn't
Mhm.
get in trouble, so that shows the type of person that he was.
Mhm.
He didn't get in trouble, and now he has his good time pending, and they offered him a deal, and he's doing that. And
Mhm.
I just wish him all the best of luck, and I wish that the people that he's around that they are positive and understand his
Mhm.
journey and will not place him or jeopardize him in any kind of way.
Yeah. Well, the family were very. Like I immediately got in touch with you, when he went to court because the family, my nerves was bad and I had to call you. The family was cutting up,
To be expected
and you was like, Nikki, look, you know, you
from
know,
both
from
perspectives.
both perspectives, the family gonna feel because when they found out he was just getting 2 years, they was shouting out kind of obscenities and my
Because they
daughter,
were hurt as well.
yeah, but my daughter-in-law called and said that they had threatened to kill her brother already, so it's just crazy now they start sending death threats again.
And
So
like I was trying to share with you, is that from I try to be neutral in things to think
mhm,
with a clear head. Is that you have their side of the family is hurting because their loved one is no longer here.
yeah,
So of course they're going to be angry. And to be honest with you, no amount of time that could have been given or a circumstance that could have been given would have been satisfying for
mhm,
them. And so them doing that, like I told you, I said it's to be expected, long as
mhm,
they don't touch it. Remember I
mhm,
said that.
yeah.
So, and then on your side, it's hurtful because you want to be there to protect your
Protect
son
my
from
son.
anything that's being said and comfort him. Like I got you. So if they anybody try to get you, I can understand that perspective as well. But by you being a supervisor, working in the prison system, and me being a supervisor in the prison system, we know how we have to be.
Mhm,
Even if we feel emotional about something, even if we're stern or feel that way, we have to still keep that that persona. And remember, I told you that a bailiff gonna have to do his job.
mhm,
The prison system guards gonna have to do their job. The
mhm,
correction officers gonna have to do their job. So that's just you know to be expected to
mhm,
happen. And the threats, something can be done. Just keep
mhm,
your paper trail and documentation, and
mhm.
do it the legal way. And just don't do anything unlegal for everyone. Don't let tempers flare up. Just be grateful that he's out, keep him out of trouble, and let him know that we're praying for both sides of the family, and,
Yeah.
and you as well.
Thank you.
Okay. So that was a great episode of Boss Women of Houston. And until next time, we have Miss Nikki, CEO Bad and Bougie, who just spilled her heart over her son's situation. And I am Dr. Kanisha Gaskin. So until next time, love, peace,
And
and
you,
unity.
Nikki.